Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I have come back to Juniper Level Botanic Garden and Plant Delights Nursery to talk with Tony Avent on a perfect morning. We have a cloudy morning.
We do. It's wonderful, wonderful summertime.
Yes. Well, the theme of this video is going to be something that I talk about all the time, which is here in the South and well, most areas probably, you can have color in the summertime. You don't have to just have a spring garden. And so we're here, what was it, end of June? And you can probably see back here behind me, there's just color everywhere in the garden.
It's an amazing time of year. Yeah, so many people, they don't think of gardening in summer. It's like, let's do spring. Everybody gets excited in spring, but
right.
This is when all your pollinators are out. This is when people should be out. You know, you may not have to be out in the middle of the day to enjoy the summer garden. Right,
and you talk about pollinators. We're going to see some pollinator-loving plants, some natives.
This is one of my favorite. These are the spider lilies, or hymen lilies. These are the genus Hymenocallis. Most of them are native to the U.S., some a little further south. But they're really amazing plants. They open up in the evening. They have these fascinating plants with a very large hymen here in the middle, and then hold the pollen way out here. Really extraordinary. They're pollinated by night-blooming moths. So they're insanely fragrant. If you come out late in the day, early in the morning, the fragrance is amazing. Each flower lasts for a day, but it's just this wonderful progression. Some of them bloom for a few weeks, some of them bloom for summer. So we have them that bloom all the way from literally April all the way through the end of summer. Really an amazing group. As a rule, they like a lot of moisture, but they'll do in fairly average soils as long as it doesn't get bone dry. These are obviously hibiscus, for those that don't know such. Many people are only familiar with the tropical hibiscus, but these are actually our native species. This combines Hibiscus militaris with Hibiscus coccineus, two southeast natives, and they're really incredible. Now in the wild, you see them growing along roads, anywhere you pass a wet area. They love moist soils, again, don't have to have it, just don't give them desert conditions. And most of them in the wild are typically going to get around head height. Breeders have now worked to make the flowers much larger, to make the flowers shorter, and to actually give a lot of them purple foliage. So there's really been so many advances in hibiscus. They're just absolutely amazing, amazing plants, and just coming into bloom now. So you'll get several months of flowering for these in the garden.
Later in the video, we're going to show you an agave that's in bloom. The ones over here have kind of finished, but you guys are in the process of making crosses on these now, right? Right,
yeah. We'll take a ladder, go up to the top, climb up there with the pollen of a different one and make the cross. And yeah, it's a very time-consuming thing. It's not like breeding daylilies or iris. It's a little more complex.
Right. So there was one up this way from last year that you left in place to show folks how you know, what happens once they flower.
Exactly. These agaves are what we call monocarpic. They live 1 year, or they live one lifetime, and then they die. So it's waiting to have this giant horticultural orgasm, to have sex one time, and when it finishes, it just falls over dead. Right. And so that one will die 2 months after it finishes flowering. So we've left that up for over a year now. Right. You just see how sturdy it is. They're really.
It's like wood.
Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing plant.
Yeah, that's wild. So so that one's gone. That one doesn't offset, but some of them do offset.
That one does not. No, this one offsets.
So this one offsets. So here, how tall is this?
Oh, this one is well over 20 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say that's, yeah.
Okay, right, and it's got
probably 25.
Offsets around it. So
yeah, so that rosette will die, but these rosettes will be absolutely fine.
Right. How big are each of these? Maybe they get
each of these are about 6 feet across, about 3 feet tall.
I got you. And it had a second, or was that a different variety?
Yeah, no. Sometimes we get these odd side shoots that it's based on one set of parentage that we use, and instead of sending up the main shoot, they'll send up these little side shoots, which is much easier for breeding.
Right. How many did you have flower?
We had about 20 flower this year, so that's the most we've ever had in a single year. So a lot of crossing going on.
Yeah, busy.
This is a very fragrant corner using a couple plants that we love. One are the Crinum lilies. Crinums are amazing, primarily from Africa, but we also have a native North American Crinum lily. And these are incredible. The new flowers open up in the evening insanely fragrant because they also are pollinated by the nocturnal moths. So this just reeks of perfume-like fragrance. They come in an array of colors from whites to pinks to reds to peppermint. And then right beside it, the amazing lilies. There's so many incredible lilies. Some people prefer the upright ones. I prefer the ones that hang down. I think they're a lot more elegant in the garden, and they also have an insane fragrance. So all of those are being backed up by one of the larger hibiscus for a really nice combination element in the garden. But you can't have too much fragrance in a garden. Here's a wonderful southeast native that's almost completely unknown because along the roadsides where it grows in ditches, it gets mowed and sprayed. But in the garden, what a wonderful plant. This is Dicromina latifolia, sometimes called Rycnosper, depending on your taxonomist, but we call it white-top sedge. It's really amazing. It's been in bloom now already for a couple of weeks. It's this grass-like foliage. It just explodes in the summer months. And what amazing, we've just used it as a ring around the bed here. So it does like it a little on the moist side. It does spread a little bit, not enough to take over, but what an incredible overlooked native that's right here in our backyard. Okay, here's a good example of what you can do in the summer garden. So we'll start with the hibiscus. We talked about the the hardy hibiscus early. Here's a variegated leaf one. There are a couple of those on the market now. The wonderful lilies, again, with their just amazing perfume. The heliopsis here, the summer sunflower, and even in the back using bananas for a foil to give you something to center that combination on. So we want people to think about creating spaces in the garden as though they would decorate a room in the house. And think about textures, forms, and then colors and putting those together. Alstroemerias are princess lilies, one of my absolute favorites for the late spring, early summer garden and rebloom again in fall. The thing that people don't know about them is that most of them are garden perennials. You would think, because they're bred for cut flowers. They were really not bred as garden perennials. And we started trialing a lot of the cut flowers and found out, oh my goodness, these things are absolutely fabulous. There's some that mature out like Ariane here at 18 inches. There are others that mature out at 3.5 to 4 feet. So you can grow your own cuts. It saves you so much money having to buy them. No offense to the florist, but to have these in your garden, they take generally a summer break. In the hottest part of the summer, they'll slow down. As soon as the night's cool, they just explode again. But really amazing and so easy to grow in the garden, very drought tolerant. Okay, this is Curcuma is the genus. Now, it's a wonderful perennial, but it doesn't come up till mid to late June. So a lot of people don't know it because it's never going to be at their box store or their garden center. But this is called pine cone ginger, hidden cone ginger, or the most common name people know it by is turmeric, because everybody uses turmeric. They don't realize you can grow your own turmeric out in the garden. There are many different types, from green leaf to purple striped leaf to variegated leaves, all with these amazing pine cone-like flowers. Another of our favorite group for the summer are the ginger lilies, not to be confused with wild gingers, which are low perennials. The gingers are anywhere from 3 to 7 to 8 foot tall, and this is the earliest species. This is Hedychium coccineum. Coccineum is a plant to the Himalayas and just starts coming up with these amazing blooms. Each stalk only flowers once. So this stalk, when it finishes, well, you can cut that off, and then a new stalk will come up for the base, and then in another month and a half, 2 months, it will flower. But they range in colors, they range in fragrances, and this is the earliest wave. So most of them bloom much later in the season, all the way up into fall. But what an amazing, moist slopes are ideal. They're okay in average garden soils, but not in real dry areas.
So the theme of this video is just showing off some of the things that are in flower in the garden, which is vast. What are your open weekends for summer?
Well, we're coming up the middle of July, so July 15th through the 17th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 to 5, Friday, Saturday, 1 to 5 Sunday, and then the following weekend, July 22nd through the 24th.
Right, and so you have the greenhouse set, or the greenhouse is kind of in the middle of the garden set up for retail.
Yeah.
And then, how long should you plan on, how long would it actually take to walk through this, you think? And
we tell people, if you're really a plant person, about 2.5, 3 days. If you're, it depends on what level of gardening you're at. You're not going to see everything, and most people come, walk really fast. Generally 2 to 3 hours. You can get through the majority of it pretty quickly, but whatever time you have, we'd love for people to come out, just walk along, get some inspiration, find out what's possible.
And again, this is something I talk about on my channel frequently about there are things that bloom in the summer. In the fall, you can come, you'll be back open in the fall.
We do it again in the fall, absolutely.
So this pineapple lily, which we have in our garden in Raleigh, is one that you introduced.
This is our very first plant introduction from back in the 1980s. Yeah, this back then nobody had ever heard of pineapple lily, so I'd ordered some seed out of England, and normally green leaf, and planted it up, and this wonderful purple leaf one came up. We named it Sparkling Burgundy, and we actually started giving it away because we didn't have a nursery at the time, and now it's literally sold all over the world. I actually met a pineapple lily breeder when I was visiting the Thailand market, and he recognized me because of this plant, because he bred pineapple lilies as well. So really, it's sort of our first baby. Right.
It looks like something that somebody might look at and go, that might be finicky. It's not finicky at all.
Oh my goodness, not at all. No, it grows in the high mountains of South Africa. It's drought tolerant. It's sun tolerant. Don't put it in shade. It's not going to do very well there, but so very easy to grow. Another of our favorite summer plants are the love lilies that belong to the genus Amorphophallus. These are the aroids, so most people would think philodendrons. It would be an inside version. These grow from giant tubers under the ground. And again, they don't pop out of the ground until mid to late June. So if you're here in spring, you visit a garden center, you're never going to see these. You'd be looking at a pot of dirt. But really amazing, the flowers come up about a month before the leaves, and the flowers are fascinating. But the foliage, they look like miniature palm trees with this amazing, it's not actually bark because these actually aren't stems, but they look like stems. So this incredible modeling, some are black stems, some have all different colors, but really amazing textural plants. And you can just tuck them in almost anything in the woodland garden, light shade to half-day sun in the morning. They're absolutely fantastic. This is another of the hardy aroids we mentioned earlier. This is Jack in the Pulpit. Now, most Jack in the Pulpits flower in spring. So if you're here for our spring open house, you've seen a lot of them, but there's summer flowering ones. This is Erycema franchetianum with these beautiful big leaves, and then these amazing flowers that are just, these are called cobra lilies because they look like the head of a cobra poking out from among the foliage. But this is one of several species that actually flowers in the summer months. So not only can you have these for spring, but you can have them later in the season as well. A couple of great natives. This is one called Obedient Plant, and it's named because if you take the flower and move it to a different part, well, I just rip that one off, that it'll actually stay there. So that was a long-known plant and a long-used plant. My only problem is we would never grow it because it takes over the garden. It's an incredible spreader, just hard to garden with it. So this is a form that came out several years ago from a breeder, Daryl Probst, up in Massachusetts, that is a tight clumper. So this is a decade old, and great name. This is Phycistega Miss Manners. So it gives you this wonderful attractant for the bees. Look how many of our native bumblebees are all over this plant. They're just having a blast with the nectar, and now you've got a plant that blooms in midsummer and doesn't try to take over the garden. Another one right behind me is a favorite of mine. This is our native Euphorbia correlata, native to almost every county east of the Mississippi, and yet never seen in gardens. Because in the wild where it grows in deep shade, it never has more than a couple of flowers. But if you bring it out in some sun, it looks like a baby's breath, and hence our common name. We call this redneck baby's breath. It's just starting to bloom now. It will bloom all summer long. It is absolutely an incredible, incredible plant that we have right here in our backyard, but just don't appreciate.
So you broke out the big ladder for this one. What you got going on up there?
We did. This is one of our century plants that is blooming after only 7 years. So it's a baby, but because it got so big, they bloom based on size. and we irrigate in here, so it got a lot of rain and it decided to bloom early. So we actually will make crosses. So we will take the pollen from another agave, we'll climb up, and you see the tags, and we'll actually make the crosses. And that way, because we're limited in the number of hardy species we can grow here, but by making new hybrids, we can actually expand that list of hardy plants pretty dramatically.
Right, and this is one that doesn't offset?
It does not offset, so like one we looked at earlier, it will be completely dead in probably 10 weeks.
Right. How much do you think that weighs?
They are enormous, many hundreds of pounds. Yeah. It's the amount of water weight in there is absolutely massive. It would take a big front end loader to be able to move that.
Isn't that wild? Are you going to leave this one in place to let people check it out over the next year? Or is this an opportunity?
We'll probably replace it with another one pretty fast, because this is a centerpiece to the garden, and we love that plant. It's just decided to go ahead and do its thing pretty early.
Was this one of yours?
No, this is not one of our introductions. This is a cultivar called Agave ovatifolia vanzi. Okay. So it was introduced actually out of California. It's a really nice form of the whale's tongue agave, because it has really pleated undulate leaves, which you typically don't see on that species.
Right. Wow. Okay, this is a great way to finish this up, I think. This is the perfect way. So open house in the next couple weeks. If you guys want to see some of these interesting things in this amazing garden, definitely come and check it out. And you said the second and third week.
15th through the 17th of July and 22nd through the 24th. Come see us.
Okay. It really is something you need to put on your list, guys.